My mom said I said last time too much in the video, so we're gonna work on that today. I'm not gonna say as much. Okay, Mom? Cool? Hey, so I constantly get asked what I use to blend my eyeshadow so well, what eyeshadow colors I use, or what eyeshadow colors I know to use. How do your eyeshadow so good? So today I'm going to address that and discuss the 3 things that I would recommend if you want perfectly blended eyeshadow. So number 1 is your tools. I can't stress enough how, you know, it's like if you want to paint a picture and you're going to use a paintbrush that just gets hairs everywhere and messes up your painting, you're not going to want that, right? So with makeup, it's going to be the same thing. You want a tool that's going to apply the product well. You're going to want a tool that's going to blend the product well, and don't cheap out on makeup brushes. I mean, that's the thing, is people's misconception about makeup brushes is that they are really expensive, and you know, oh, I can get a cheap one from online. Like you can get packages of makeup brushes online where it's like 10-pack or something. Sure, you're probably gonna get 4 or 5 brushes out of that 10 that are decent brushes, but you're not gonna use all of them because usually they're not all the best brushes. My first makeup brush set was, I think I have some brushes from it still. It was this pink set that I ordered off of Coastal Scents when I was like 14, around that age, and half the brushes are gone because they fell apart or they weren't very good, but I still have some of them. But my point is, you need to spend the money on good makeup brushes. So I have a mixture of cheaper ones and good ones. Good meaning like, I guess, more expensive rather. One of my favorite makeup brush brands is Sigma, especially for eyeshadow. For applying eyeshadow, you really need to make sure that, or I would recommend to spend the money and get a good quality blending brush. So my favorite, I guess, well, this is called a tapered blending brush. I call it a goat hair one because I have another blending brush that is just synthetic, so it's easier to know between the two for me. So I have 2 of these ones. One's really dirty, so I'm not going to show that one. But my favorite one is the Sigma E35. MAC has one as well. I'm not sure what the number is, but I think it's this. I probably paid $15 Canadian for. MAC's probably about 18, so it's not too much of a price difference. But so this is a goat haired blending brush. As you can see, the bristles are white. They're pretty stiff when moving it back and forth. And they just pick up product really well. And what I like about this is because the bristles are so stiff, they tend to blend product across your eyelid. When you're blending product, you need to move the product around without it being choppy. You know when you kind of blend an eyeshadow sometimes and you have like little lines across your eyelid? That's because you're not blending or using the right tools, or sometimes the shadow can be a little bit sticky on your eye. But this really helps blend the product in properly. And then my second one, excuse me, this is a Sigma one as well. This is a tapered blending E40 brush. This is synthetic, and I use this to put my base shadow on my eyelid. I wouldn't necessarily use this to blend a crease color because it is such, as you can see, the bristles are quite long, and it's a soft brush, so it's not going to move the product around again as well as you would hope. So yeah, that's my first rule. Buy good eyeshadow application tools because you will not regret it. You will have 10 times better eyeshadow application because you're not using a cheap old brush. So my second tip, I guess, is to use a base shadow. In my previous video, I had mentioned, you know, one of my favorite base shadows by MAC, and what a base shadow is basically is a shadow that you put on your bare eyelid. So after you've applied eyeshadow primer, you would use a base shadow that is your skin tone, a little bit lighter or a little bit darker, but basically a flesh tone eyeshadow. And I would take this brush, blend it all over my eyelid. I don't care how messy it is, you're really not going to see it much because it's going to be the same color as your skin tone mostly. And you just kind of blend it around, and what that does is it A, sets your primer, B, it helps the application of a crease color. Because you already have a shadow on there, the crease color is not going to kind of stick to your eyelid because of the primer, and it's also going to mix a little bit with the base shadow and become easier to move and blend out and become smooth on your eyelid. So my favorite base shadow is MAC Soft Brown right here. Because it's basically my skin tone. Maybe I think it's a little bit darker. And another base shadow I like, where is that one? Anastasia Soft Peach right here. That one's a little bit light, but really you're not, like, the point is not to see the color because you're just gonna be blending over it anyways with a bunch of other colors, so it doesn't really matter if it's applied well or if it's applied nicely because you're not gonna see it. It's there to help the other colors apply better. Another base shadow I like for if you're darker toned is Wedge by MAC. This one's a little bit dark for me. This one, I could still use it as a base shadow, but I would have to apply it a little bit more lightly because you would see the color over my eyelid because it's so dark on me. But if you're darker toned, you probably wouldn't see this as much on your skin tone, but I really like this one as well. It blends really nice. My third tip for applying eyeshadow properly, or well, would be to use a mixture of different eyeshadow finishes, and don't use satin eyeshadow as a crease color. Don't do it. Just don't do it. When I first started applying eyeshadow, I didn't realize or know that there was different eyeshadow finishes. So what I mean by eyeshadow finishes is satin, matte, shimmer, foiled. They all look different they all are different. So satin, let's see if I have a satin shadow in here. Satin eyeshadow would be, for example, this is Satin Taupe, haha, pun. Satin Taupe by MAC. So as you can see, it's not glittery, but it's also not matte. And a matte shadow, for example, would be this one. As I move it around, there's no shimmer or shine whatsoever. And then a shimmery shadow, this one could be an example for a shimmery shadow. It's got a little bit more shine than this one right here. And then of course the foiled shadow is just like applying liquid metal on your eye, so it's definitely going to be a little bit shiny and shimmery on your eye. So the reason that I would say to use a bunch of different eyeshadow finishes is because, as I was saying, when I was younger, when I first started applying eyeshadow, I would try to use, or I wouldn't care, I would just apply a whole bunch of satin eyeshadows on my eye. And what that does is it just makes all the colors will blend together and the shimmer will blend together and your eye will just look like a big shimmery thing. Like it won't differentiate the colors on your eye because it'll all be shimmer or it'll all be shiny. So it's going to be hard to actually see the definition, your crease, all the different kind of colors that you strategically place on your eye is going to be difficult to see when you apply one finish. So my kind of thinking when I go and apply eyeshadow is I apply a matte base shadow, I apply a matte crease shadow. So a crease shadow meaning the thing that you would put over your base shadow a little bit up into the crease, not on your eyelid. I usually tend to apply a matte outer V shadow. So outer V meaning the dark part of your eyelid that you apply over, oh I just said again. The dark part of your eye that you apply kind of over the crease. And then a shimmery shadow or a shiny shadow, a foiled shadow, a glitter shadow on the eyelid. I go ham on my eyelid with non-matte shadows. Oh! Okay, I need to stop saying I apply shimmery shadows, foiled shadows, glitter shadows on my eyelid because it catches the most attention, it catches the most light if it's on your eyelid. And mattes blend a little bit easier than shimmer shadows for the most part. And you can also blend matte shadows together easier than you can blend shimmery shadows together because the shine doesn't come off of the shadow and onto another shadow, if you kind of know what I mean. So what I would say, like, for example, if I looked at this palette, I would say take this shadow as your base shadow. I would use this shadow as my crease. I would use a darker brown as my outer V, and then I would go and use a shimmer shadow on my lid. You just kind of got to look at what shadows you have available, and definitely I keep the matte shadows in the crease. If I'm doing an all matte look like I did today, I will put a matte shadow on my eyelid, but I rarely ever use a shimmery shadow above my eyelid into the crease. It just doesn't, I just don't like the look of it personally. If you do, that's awesome. I'm glad you can actually rock those eyes, because I can't, because I tend to look like someone just threw some shine on my eye. So those are my 3 things that I would recommend. Number 1 is to get some good quality eyeshadow application tools. Number 2 is to use a base shadow to help blend out your eyeshadow. And number 3 is to use a variety of different finishes. Also, to use different finishes because it creates more dimension. Just gotta add that in there because I forgot to talk about that. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope to come up with a new video soon, and I'll talk to you later.